Pay-per-view is a type of pay television service by which a subscriber of a television service provider can purchase events to view via private telecast. The broadcaster shows the event at the same time to everyone ordering it. Events can be purchased using an on-screen guide, an automated telephone system, or through a live customer service representative. Events often include feature films, sporting events and other entertainment programs. With the rise of the Internet, the term Internet pay-per-view has been used to describe pay-per-view services accessed online. North America, United States. The Zenith Phone Vision system became the first pay-per-view system to be tested in the United States. Developed in 1951, it used telephone lines to take and receive orders, as well as to descramble a television broadcast signal. The field tests conducted for Phone Vision lasted for 90 days and were tested in Chicago, Illinois. The system used IBM punch cards to descramble a signal broadcast during the broadcast station's off time. Both systems showed promise, but the Federal Communications Commission denied them the permits to operate. One of the earliest pay-per-view systems on cable television, the optical systems developed Channel 100, first began service in 1972 in San Diego, California through Mission Cable and Theatervision, which operated out of Sarasota, Florida. These early systems quickly went out of business as the cable industry adopted satellite technology and as flat-rate pay television services such as home box office became popular. Boxing was first introduced to pay-per-view with the Thriller in Manila fight between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier in September 1975. There was also another major title fight aired on pay-per-view in 1980, when Roberto Duran defeated Sugar Ray Leonard. Cable companies offered the match for $10, and about 155,000 customers paid to watch the fight. A major pay-per-view event occurred on September 16, 1981, when Sugar Ray Leonard fought Thomas "Hitman" Hearns for the World Welterweight Championship. Viacom Cablevision in Nashville, Tennessee, the first system to offer the event, saw over 50% of its subscriber base purchase the fight. Leonard visited Nashville to promote the fight, and the event proved such a success that Viacom themed its annual report for that year around it. Viacom marketing director Pat Thompson put together the fight, and subsequently put together additional PPV fights, wrestling matches, and even a televised Broadway play. After leaving Viacom, Thompson became head of Sports View and produced the first pay-per-view football game on October 16, 1983, a college football game between the University of Tennessee and the University of Alabama from Birmingham, Alabama. SportsView played a role in building pay-per-view networks, and became the early pioneer in developing Tigervision for Louisiana State University, Tigervision for Alabama, and a volume seat for Tennessee. SportsView also produced the Ohio State-Michigan football game for pay-per-view in November 1983. In 1985, the first pay-per-view cable channels in the United States, Viewers' Choice, cable video store, First Choice and Request TV, began operation within days of each other. Viewers' Choice serviced both home satellite dish and cable customers, while Request TV, though broadcasting to cable viewers, would not become available to satellite subscribers until the 1990s. First Choice PPV was available on Rogers Cable Systems in the United States and Canada, after Paragon Cable acquired the Rogers Cable Systems franchise in San Antonio, Texas. First Choice continued to be carried until Time Warner Cable bought Paragon in 1996. In the United States, pay-per-view broadcasters transmit without advertisements, similar to conventional flat-rate pay television services. The term pay-per-view did not come into general use until the late 1980s, when companies such as Viewers' Choice, HBO and Showtime started using the system to show movies and some of their productions. Viewers' choice carried movies, concerts and other events, with live sporting events such as WrestleMania being the most predominant programming. Prices ranged from $3.99 to $49.99, while HBO and Showtime, with their event production legs TVKO and set pay-per-view, would offer championship boxing matches ranging from $14.99 to $54.99. ESPN later began to televise college football and basketball games on pay-per-view through its services ESPN Game Plan and ESPN Full Court, which were eventually sold as full-time out-of-market sports packages. The boxing undercard Latin Fury, shown on June 28, 2003, became ESPN's first boxing card on pay-per-view and also the first pay-per-view boxing card held in Puerto Rico. Pay-per-view has provided a revenue stream for professional wrestling circuits such as WWE, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, Ring of Honor and Asistencia Accesoria y Administration. WWE Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Vince McMahon is considered by many as one of the icons of pay-per-view promotion. McMahon owns the rights to pay-per-view.com, which redirects to the WWE website. HBO PPV. In 2006, HBO generated 3.7 million pay-per-view buys with $177 million in gross sales. The only year with more buys previously, 1999, had a total of 4 million. The former record fell in 2007 when HBO sold 4.8 million PPV buys with $255 million in sales. 1999 differed radically from 2006. 1999 saw 4 major fight cards. De La Hoya Trinidad, Holyfield Lewis I, Holyfield Lewis II and De La Hoya Court E. By contrast, only one pay-per-view mega fight took place in 2006. De La Hoya Mayorga, Ramon Mascave bombed with under 50,000. The other 8 PPV cards that year all fell in the 325,000–450,000 range. Pay-per-view fights in that range almost always generate more money for the promoter and fighters than HBO wants to pay for an HBO World Championship boxing license fee. In May 2007, the super welterweight boxing match between Oscar de la Hoya and Floyd Mayweather Jr. on HBO PPV became the biggest-selling non-heavyweight title fight, with a little more than 2.5 million buyers. The fight itself generated roughly $134.4 million in domestic PPV revenue, making it the most lucrative prize fight of all time. The record stood until 2015 before it was broken by Floyd Mayweather, Jr. vs. Manny Pacquiao in a fight dubbed as the Fight of the Century, on May 2, 2015, which generated 4.4 million PPV buys and a revenue of over $400 million. The leading PPV attraction, Floyd Money Mayweather, has generated 14 million buys and $943 million in revenue. Oscar de la Hoya has sold approximately 12.8 million units in total, giving $612 million in domestic television receipts and stands second. In third place in buys, Evander Holyfield has achieved 12.6 million units, and at fourth, Mike Tyson has reached 12.4 million units. Ross Greenberg, then president of HBO Sports, called the expansion of pay-per-view the biggest economic issue in boxing, stating, "I can't tell you that pay-per-view helps the sport because it doesn't. It hurts the sport because it narrows our audience, but it's a fact of life. Every time we try to make an HBO World Championship boxing fight, we're up against mythical pay-per-view numbers. HBO doesn't make a lot of money from pay-per-view. There's usually a cap on what we can make, but the promoters and fighters insist on pay-per-view because that's where their greatest profits lie. It's a big problem." Greenberg continues. It's getting harder and harder to put fighters like Manny Pacquiao on HBO World Championship Boxing. If Floyd Mayweather beats Oscar, he might never fight on HBO World Championship Boxing again. But if HBO stopped doing pay-per-view, the promoters would simply do it on their own, like Bob Arum did with Koto Malignaggi in June 2006, or find someone else who will do it for them. Former HBO Sports president Seth Abraham concurs, saying, "I think, if Lou and I were still at HBO, we'd be in the same pickle as far as the exodus of fights to pay-per-view is concerned." Boxing Select HBO, Showtime PPV boxing buy rates between 1988 and 2015. UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship, a relative newcomer on the pay-per-view scene, matched the once dominant World Wrestling Entertainment Inc. in pay-per-view revenues during 2006 and surpassed boxing titan HBO. The three companies make up the bulk of the pay-per-view business. According to Deanna Meyers, a senior analyst at Kagan Research LLC, UFC has reinvigorated the pay-per-view category. The highest buy rates for the UFC as of July 2015 update are as follows. Source: Note: the UFC does not release official PPV statistics, and the following PPV numbers are as reported by industry insiders. Professional wrestling has a long history of running pay-per-view events. WWE launched its first pay-per-view event in 1985 with WrestleMania I and has run numerous others throughout the years. Other major organizations such as WCW, ECW and TNA have also run pay-per-view events. The highest buy rates for professional wrestling events as of June 2015 update are as follows. Canada: in Canada, most cable, satellite, and IPTV service providers provide pay-per-view programming through one or more services. Historically, PPV operations were required to be outsourced to a third-party operator, such as Viewers' Choice, which had sole rights to offer PPV programming in a particular language in, or part of the country regardless of service provider. However, the PPV market was open to competition in the late 1990s, and since then PPV service ownership has been consolidated under the large Canadian service providers, including Shaw PPV, VU, Sportsnet PPV, Canal Indigo, and SaskTel PPV, while Viewers' Choice will be winding down operations in September 2014. In all cases, prices typically range from around $4.99 up to $50 or more for special events. Europe. Romania cable communications operator UPC Romania has notified the National Audiovisual Council on the intention to introduce in January-February 2014 at the latest, an on-demand audiovisual media service called Agitprez. According to the manager of UPC Romania-owned Smaranda Radoy, UPC will allow customers to watch movies on demand or live events, as well as broadcasts of performances, concerts and sporting events. United Kingdom viewers in the United Kingdom can access pay-per-view via satellite, cable and over-the-internet television services, mainly for films, with services such as Sky Box Office. Broadcasters have largely abandoned their aspirations to introduce PPV into the sports market due to poor take-up. As of 2009 update, it carries only occasional boxing matches and all of the WWE pay-per-view events. France launched in the late 1990s. CanalSat and TPS operate their own pay-per-view service, while CanalSat holds the rights to live soccer matches for France's Ligue 1. TPS had the rights for box matches. In 2007, Multivision service ceased by the end of TPS service, which merged with CanalSat. Nowadays, Ciné Plus is the only existing pay-per-view service in France, Australia and the Pacific Islands. Foxtel and Optus Vision introduced pay-per-view direct-to-home television in Australia in the mid to late 1990s. Fox still had Event TV while Optus Vision had Main Attraction Pay-Per-View as its provider. As of 2005, Main Event is the current pay-per-view provider through Foxtel and Optus Cable satellite subscription. Sky Pacific started a service in Fiji in 2005 and then expanded into American Samoa, Cook Islands, Fiji, Kiribati, Nauru, New Caledonia, Niue, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Tonga and Vanuatu, with 1 out of their 25 channels being pay-per-view. Malaysia. In Malaysia, Astro's Astro box office service launched in 2000 in the form of the free-to-air Astro Showcase. Japan. Sky Perfect TV subscribers can receive one-click pay-per-view access to hundreds of channels supplying domestic and international sporting events, movies, and specialty programming, either live or later on continuous repeat on its channel. India. In India, a pay-per-view service operates. However, pay-per-view sports broadcasts are not available.